Assalamu alaikum. I am honored and humbled by this award. Thank you. My contributions have been small, but hopefully helpful in your work. I came to know about the work of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community through my friend, my dear friend, Mansoor Shams, whom many of you may know. He is a Marine Corps veteran. He's a kindred spirit who has taught me much about what it means to use your voice to bridge divides, to bring people together, and to live that virtue that we call moral courage. He's also a leader at the Beirut Samad Mosque in Baltimore, where I've been on a number of occasions. Many of you are likely familiar with his work as the founder of Muslim Marine, an effort to unify people through conversations. He traveled the country and the world seeking to put a face on a noble calling, that of a patriot who serves both his faith and his country. Mansoor, thank you. I spent a good bit of time studying the life of His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad, who since becoming the 5th Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in 2003 has continuously called for honesty and the observance of unconditional justice and fairness in international relations. An important and, I dare say, extremely well-needed remedy in today's challenges. I praise his and your noble efforts. I grew up in a Protestant faith tradition. I was raised in the state of Wyoming, which, as you might imagine, has very, very few Muslims. In fact, Wyoming has very, very few people. My grandfather used to say that there's hardly enough people to have a good fight in Wyoming. But my upbringing in small-town Wyoming left me with the deep-rooted understanding that people are people, and the inherent human dignity of all is fundamental to all faiths, and something we must continue to remind ourselves of as children of God. I witnessed my neighbors, people of all faiths and none, lift one another up, feed the hungry, care for the poor, comfort the afflicted, welcome the stranger, and make peace. At the root of all this was the notion of the dignity of every human being. I learned this as well in the Marine Corps, believe it or not. I was but a young 18-year-old when I joined the military. I recall my drill instructor reminding us that we were all equal. In fact, that every single one of us was insufficient and inadequate. It didn't matter who your parents were, what color your skin was, what God you prayed to. You couldn't do anything right. He reminded us of that every day. But seriously, my experience in the military was about the remarkable equality of all, that we were all equal. In the old Marine jargon, that we all bled green, and that we all have a duty, dare I say a greater purpose, to plumb the depths so that we may find the strength to love more fully, to see our own reflection in each other, to be our brothers and our sisters' keeper, and to keep faith with one another. I spent much of my 20 years in the Marine Corps deployed to Europe, to the Middle East, to Central Asia. I witnessed much of the worst of humanity, war and strife and conflict. I witnessed people who killed and maimed, sometimes in the name of religion. But I also witnessed the profound goodness of people, the strength, the tenacity, the compassion, and the love that flow from all of our faiths. I observed missionaries building schools in faraway lands, and I enjoyed the warm hospitality of many Muslim families who welcomed me into their homes and served me a feast that on many occasions likely cost them several weeks' income. Tonight, I'd like to focus for a moment on an aspect of our country that is so critical to our continued existence and success, and that is the notion of religious freedom. I mentioned to you before that I'm not a Muslim, but I believe profoundly in your right. Yes, your right to worship as you choose. Our First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Let me give you a wonderful example. My last assignment was at the Pentagon, quite unfortunately. In the Pentagon, there's a chapel. It's a small room in what is one of the largest office buildings in the world, some 17 miles of hallway where over 20,000 people come to work each workday. The chapel seats only 80. Posted outside the chapel is a schedule of services: Catholic confession and Mass, a Jewish service and a Torah study, a Hindu service, a Mormon service, and services for other Christian denominations, along with a Muslim prayer service. When they have a Muslim prayer service, they move the pews against the walls and position prayer rugs for Muslims to practice their faith. I recall hosting many military dignitaries at the Pentagon, and this chapel is one of the most important places that they want to see. I witnessed generals and admirals take a moment to enter the chapel to reflect, to pray, and to practice their faith freely in a nation that guarantees it. What could be more American than that? Today, I have the privilege to lead the work of an organization called Veterans for American Ideals, which you heard a little bit about. You know, I like to joke that we're at a unique time in our country when suddenly, as a veteran, I am much braver and better looking than I deserve. We're in kind of a thank you for your service moment. And while we appreciate the gratitude of a grateful nation, I believe that with that comes an obligation to continue to serve. And so it was in this vein that we had this Ramadan, this 29 for 29 Ramadan initiative. It was the brainchild of Mansour, and he said, hey, what if we do this? If we pair military veterans with Muslim families, each veteran will spend the night at the home of a Muslim and gain an intimate knowledge of our holy month of Ramadan. We did that 29 times over. The branding, of course, was the 29 days of Ramadan this year, but also a tip of the hat to ESPN's 30 for 30. We had veterans around the country that arrived late in the afternoon, celebrated an iftar, went to the mosque or the Muslim community, and then spent the night waking early the next morning to observe the beginning of the fast. And I can tell you, it was transformational for those veterans. Thank you, Mansour. Thank you, Ahmadiyya Muslim community, for joining with us in that. Throughout this work, I have found it so gratifying and important to be able to partner and to collaborate with groups like yours, to encourage our fellow citizens to open our arms rather than to clench our fists, to look out rather than to turn inward, to accept rather than to reject. You all give me hope that if we are properly humble, if we stand up for the dignity and value of every man, woman, and child, recognize that we are all equal in His eyes, we may once again find the better angels of our nature. I pray that we will. Thank you for this distinguished honor. Thank you.